Devilish, and Devilish the Next Possession, I'm going to grade them together, are another horror occult themed ball bouncing Sega produced game, but this time, instead of pinball, it's a breakout style game. Devilish was released in 1991 for the Game Gear. It plays like a breakout clone, with the main gimmick being moving through a level to an exit point and fighting some enemies along the way. The game starts in a graveyard level. Starting in a graveyard is always a good spooky choice. Bouncing the ball or magical orb to break tombstones, you can change paddle arrangements, and as you progress, fight, in heavy quotation marks, zombies and other ghouls. Passing over a pretty wicked heavy metal demon seal. They really can't attack you. Losing the orb is the only penalty, that and running out of time. You can collect boosts that do things like clear paths and power up the orb. The enemies are good and spooky. Skeletons, zombies, a decapitated zombie bride, grinning demon faces that temporarily eat the ball. The first boss is the demon from the sigil, summoned in a swarm of bats. It's a pretty interesting concept for a breakout style game. That's why the next year, in 1992, they released the sequel for the Sega Genesis/Mega Drive. Devilish, the Next Possession, starts with a backstory for the paddles of all things. Apparently, they are the prince and princess from a kingdom that a devil transformed into stone paddles. Then the ball falls from the sky as an orb or something. After a kinda cool but kinda goofy skeleton zipper zips up, your level start card has the normal info you would expect. Stage, ball stock, score. Wait, that's a very specific time limit. You also get a little preview of what the boss looks like. That's kinda cool. You start this game also in a spooky cemetery with demon bats, skeletons, and tombstones to bounce and bust your way off of. The time limit being an hourglass is pretty cool. You can change the paddles into fewer arrangements this time, but you can change the speed that the orb travels. For the atmosphere, I'll give it a 2. While maybe a little more fantasy oriented, especially the second one with the backstory, than the Devil Crash pinball game we looked at earlier in this series, I'm surprised that there are 2 different horror occult themed ball bouncing series on Sega. I'm also surprised that the first game in this series was released on Game Gear first, and then the second on a main console. There are enough spooky elements in these games to elevate them from out of just being breakout clones into atmospheric little horror games, and you can never go wrong with graveyards and demons. For the gameplay, I'll give it a 2. It's a pretty fun concept, but it is just at its core a ball bouncing game, which can be fun for short bits at a time, but it can get repetitive trying to beat a full game of it.